And welcome to another edition of the Power Play Podcast here on the State Champs Podcast Network. It is presented by National Coney Island. I'm with Sean Baligian today. Sean, how are you today?
Outstanding.
And who we have today?
Brandon Kaleniecki, of course, a CC guy, a player, now the head coach of the Shamrocks as well. Played at Michigan. He's got to rep that as well. So a distinguished career and certainly one of the good guys in the business. Cal, thanks for coming out, man.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, how many years have you been now the coach at CC?
This is my third.
Okay. And then you played, and when did you play at CC?
I played from 1997 to 2000, so I made it as a sophomore in the 97, 98 season, so played there for 3 years and graduated in 2000.
And how special is it that you're back at your alma mater?
It is such a cool and unique experience to be able to do that, to be able to return to your alma mater and coach a team that you were once part of, and I'm very honored and humbled to be able to do that. And I obviously have quite a staff of all guys that played at CC for the most part, and they have the same experience. So it's such a cool thing, and you get to communicate with the kids, you get to talk with them, and you have an understanding of what they're going through because you went through it yourself, and being that it's at the same school, you kind of have a special connection there as well.
It's interesting, Cal, because I think really the only guy that can come into CC is a guy that understands CC, because there are expectations. It's expectations on the ice, expectations off the ice. There's no question about that. How would you describe that? Some might use the word pressure, expectations. How would you describe that at Catholic Central?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the high expectations on the ice, off the ice. It's all about representing that school the right way, and for us, from a coaching standpoint and a player standpoint, and that's something we always remind our guys of, is when you put the CC on, you're representing a lot of people. There's a lot of people that look at you, and you want to make sure you do that proud, not only the alumni, but the current students, the current administration, the current staff. You want to make sure that they're proud of what you're doing as well. So, and that comes with it, like you said, expectations on the ice and off the ice at the school. That is something that, whether you use the term pressure, that's what you sign up for. That's what you're getting into, and that comes as no surprise to anybody that's there.
This is the State Champs Power Play Podcast presented by National Coney Island. I'm Jonathon Kidd, along with Sean Baligian and Brandon Kaleniecki from Detroit Catholic Central. Let's take a quick look at the rankings. Sean, you added Holland West Ottawa, Woodhaven, and Liggett to your top 25. Tell me about those three teams you added.
Well, I'm going to start with the one that you just mentioned, Liggett. Liggett is a team that came this close a couple weeks back, and they lost a few games, but they bounced back. They've won a bunch of games in a row, and I think that league is a league that maybe people need to take a closer look at. I think that's a team, Liggett, that's had a tremendous amount of success in recent years. Won a championship, of course, going back 6 years now.
And who was that name? There was
Lord Anthony on defense. Do you remember? Anthony, phenomenal defenseman. He fun to watch. He was having, but. I like the way they're playing right now, and I like, when you put together a win streak as they've put together, they were really close to breaking the seal, because the process. You and I talk about it. I talk about it with coaches. You have to scour all these schedules and see, okay, well, what have they done earlier? Who have they lost to? I think a lot of times, as we've talked about, a loss can tell you a lot about a team as well. And they came really close to breaking the seal, but with the recent win streak, I thought it was time to jump in. Woodhaven is a great story. Of course, a few weeks ago we talked about them, a tremendous accomplishment to get the 400 wins. You're doing something right. Yep. When you win 12 games in a row in the MHSAA, you're doing something right. And in my opinion, you deserve to be recognized for that. So, obviously that's what's going on there. And what's interesting, a lot of people told me, hey, keep an eye on Holland West Ottawa. And so I've been looking at their schedule for about a month now. And, I think that the way things configured itself, I think that's a team that definitely deserved to be ranked. And they put together some nice wins as well. So, man, it is an arduous process trying to figure out how many teams to cram into the top 25 when you can only deal with top 25, because as Coach Kaleniecki, there are so many good teams out there. Anybody on any given night can kind of jump up and get you. There's no doubt about that. So, especially at this point in time in the season, it's kind of an arduous process to try to figure out which 25 should get in.
And on the west side, Brandon, you played Grandville the last few years. Just tell us how special that rivalry is with you guys the last few years.
Well, I think going back to the Granville CC thing where we were talking about before the show came on, it started, and I was at the game as a spectator. I was not coaching at Catholic Central at the time, so I was there as a spectator just watching the semifinal, and I remember that feeling, and it gave you goosebumps when both teams got together to pray for Ryan Fisher, and it was very, like I said, I had goosebumps, and I was very proud to be associated with Catholic Central at that point, just as an alumni. And so to be able to continue that on with Granville, and Joel's an absolutely fantastic guy, and the Fisher family's been great. And, we've had the opportunity to get together with them every year before our game and have Mass together and kind of remind, memory of those things. And we've had, from our program, we've had people that have passed away, and just as they had with Ryan and through the school. And, there's unfortunate bonding there through tragedy from both schools and both programs, and it, it's kind of nice to be able to have people like that understand what you just went through.
John, I think to piggyback, it shows you just the class of both programs, because from what was just the ultimate tragedy, the way the Fisher family has conducted themselves. Joel Brazil, I'm with you, Cal. I think what a good human being. I mean, he is a treasure, in my humble opinion, to have part of the MHSAA family, to take what is the ultimate tragedy, the unthinkable, and turn that into something, and a yearly something, the Ryan Fisher Scholarship. I mean, there's just so many things about it, and you know what it does, in my humble opinion, from the outside looking in, coaches, is people look at the way that you guys conduct yourselves, and that's a lead by example moment. I think that's a lead by example moment for everybody. It's turned into just a great thing for high school hockey.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun getting together every year and reliving some of those memories. And like you said, when we going back a few years now, when Mitchell Kiefer passed away in the car accident, he graduated, was going to Michigan State, and he passed away. One of the first emails I had received was from Joel Brazil, and their condolences, and obviously
and even when Matt Cerisho got injured.
Yeah, Matt Cerisho, which those tragedies, like I said, through them a lot of good has come from it, I guess, is the best you could say it. Of course, it's a very unfortunate situation when those things happen, but you find out how great people are in the hockey world, and Grandville is a perfect example of that.
This is the Power Play podcast presented by National Coney Island. We are going to be talking quick about the High School Player of the Year update. It is also presented by National Coney Island. Brandon, you have a kid on our list, Brendan West. Just tell us about how special a player he is.
He's fun to watch, and as I mentioned to Sean a few weeks ago when he reached out to me about him for being on this list, and I said, you're going to see the numbers, you're going to see all the highlights and the nice goals he scores, but what I look back at from a coaching standpoint, and just how good he is in every area of the game. He's strong in his stick. He wins 50-50 puck battles. He tracks back. He leads by example. He's not a very loud kid. He's actually quite humble and quiet, but he leads by example. And, the stuff he does on the offensive end is fun to watch, but also to watch him come back and make those type of plays that prevent goals as well, I think is just a tribute to how well-rounded of a player he is. And I was telling Sean as we were coming here, all three guys on that line for us, and I gotta make sure to mention them both, because Jared Lee is another guy who just is so competitive, and one of our captains, and all three. Dylan Monty, the other guy on that line, is our assistant captain. Jared and Brendan are our two captains, and they all bring something that really helps our team go. And like I said, we're talking about Brendan, but I think it's important to mention all three of them, because they really, when we put them together, they've taken our team to another level, and they've really helped carry it. And like I said, you could pick any of those three, and I'd be happy to talk about them.
What's really interesting, John, is and I'm sure you do the same thing. I talked to some opposing coaches to get their take on particular players, and one of them was West. And it was interesting because two opposing coaches used this term. And to me, this term is just about the greatest compliment you can get today, 200-foot player. Yep. And to me, in today, especially when you're talking about the National Hockey League, a 200-foot player, you can't put a price tag on that. So when you couple that with, let's not forget, this is a guy that has put up good numbers, and you saw it firsthand. Yep. They were in a hole against Brother Rice, and who dug them out with not one but 2 goals to tie the game. So I think that's a special player. And Coach Cal's right, and I don't want to put him on the spot. These are my words and my words alone. There are 2 or 3 guys from his team alone that could go on that list. Mm-hmm. There are 2 or 3 guys from Brighton. There are 2 or 3 guys from Orchard Lake St. Mary's, from Stevenson. And it's a difficult proposition to try to get Hancock as well. It's a difficult proposition to try to whittle it down, and certainly we do our best to do it. That's one name, Mr. West, that nobody's going to question why he's on that list. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And we had a discussion over the weekend, and we made some changes to our top 10 list. We added Jake Benke from Heartland. We take Josh Aubry off. Jack Humley from Plymouth is on our list, too. The 2 guys on the list, what's your thoughts on those?
Well, it's interesting. Benke is a guy that I think in the past couple of years he's kind of done this. You know what I mean? And now it's built to a point. Everybody knew Josh Albring. Everybody knows Josh Albring. And it's not any disrespect, obviously, because, Heartland, you could have 2 guys easily on that list, both of them. But I think what you've seen, in my opinion, is I think you've seen Benke go like this. And I think it's at the point now where I think my personal opinion, and after talking to, again, a bunch of opposing coaches, because that's the best opinions to get, a lot of guys felt that he deserved a spot on that list. And, as far as Jack goes, I don't think I even have to give an explanation. I think when you look at his numbers, I think when he leads what is arguably, mind you, the best team in Division II right now, to put up back-to-back hat tricks and 4-point nights against Northville, the way that they limit teams, that really speaks for itself. So I don't feel the need to defend that one at all. You know what I mean? I mean, really, that Plymouth team, again, John, I know we've been talking about it. This is probably Coach Vento's best team, and Division II is so top-heavy this year, so top-heavy. There are 4 or 5 outstanding teams. That's going to be a team to watch, and certainly he's one of the reasons why. And
we had a nice discussion about that last week with Plymouth and Stevenson going to be the first game.
It's a shame. We're going to put Coach Cal in the corner. We don't want to get him involved. No, I'm sorry. It's a shame. And Catholic Central in the past. I know you made reference to it when Northville and CC, 2 of the best teams in the state, had to do it. This is the way it is until it changes. We all have to deal with it. And I think sometimes, maybe this is where we could reintroduce Coach Cal. That's the white noise that you try to get out of your players' heads. Control what you can control. I mean, what's the message? Because these guys are looking at brackets. They're looking at, all right, this team is coming up next, and you're a guy that's saying 1 game at a time.
And that's exactly what you just constantly remind them. We play whoever they're putting in front of us. You don't have a control over that, so don't waste your energy. Don't waste your time worrying about what other teams got their route. You deal with it. You play. You got to win your game. If you don't win your game, it doesn't matter. Yeah. If you didn't win your game, then you weren't going to win the state championship anyway. So you got to win the game that's in front of you, and then you move on. And it's tough. It's a tough 2-week span. So sometimes you get a couple tough games in a row, and like I said, to get to that last game on Saturday, and you're going to have to play some tough teams along the way. So you got to play. You got to play whoever's in front of you and beat them.
There has been some talk about expanding the playoffs half a week to 3 weeks, whatever the case may be. Where are you at? Because it seems to me, I could be wrong, you tell me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that that's kind of unanimous amongst the coaches. What are your thoughts on that?
I would welcome it. I really would, because it is a long 2 weeks when you look at, in most cases, 6 games in a 2-week span. Most teams don't play 6 games in a 2-week span majority of the year. You may play 3 1 week, 2 the next, but you really don't schedule up 3 games in a week because it's tough on the students. Wednesday night game, Friday, Saturday, and then another Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. That can be a long couple of weeks for the students as well, so you try to keep that in mind when we're scheduling throughout the season, and it would open up some different possibilities for the weekend. It would be exciting to find ways to put maybe a couple games in the same rink for a regional final. So you would have a couple regional finals at the same rink, and it would just create some different atmospheres. And I'd be all for that. And expanding it another week, I think just it should help also improve the product, because the kids wouldn't be maybe you wouldn't have kids being a little bit tired at the end of that run. And you see it in the NHL, right? That's a 2-month marathon for those guys. So by the time they're done, they're gassed if they win the cup, and most of them can't even really celebrate the way they want to.
It's survival now. I mean, really, it's survival now. It's amazing.
Lastly, on the State Champs Power Play podcast, the MIHL Michigan Prep Hockey Showcase is this weekend down in Trenton. A great showcase. Your thoughts on being part of that showcase? We're
always excited. It's a weekend that we circle on our calendar every year. You're excited to get to that. You're excited to see all these teams in the same building at Trenton. You're excited to see who you're going to play. It really is. It's a great challenge, and the way they match up the teams is always been fantastic. You usually walk in there and you're going to get 2 great competitive hockey games, regardless of what type of season you're having. It seems like they do a really good job of matching the teams up so that every game is really competitive, and that's what we're trying to see. And like I said, the environment of the 3 rinks going all at the same time, and you kind of pop in and you can see some of the matchups that are back to back to back. It's fun as a coach to be able to go in to one arena, catch a couple minutes of this game, walk to the next, catch a couple minutes of this game. It just, I wish we'd do more of it, to be honest.
We always like it when we see like an up north team.
Love it.
Like a Houghton, a Calumet.
Love it.
And we'd be like, who's this team? It was like Houghton a couple years ago. They beat Brighton. They beat Northville.
Mm-hmm.
Just your thoughts on the showcase.
I remember, was it 2 years ago, I remember seeing Hancock there. And I'm not joking, when I saw Hancock, and I think you and I did something shortly thereafter where I said, I think Hancock's going to win it all, and they eventually did. I mean, they were just such a good show. One of my favorite things, and I'm not even talking about, I'm not a media member right now, okay? I love going to the MIHL site, mihl.org, and looking when they announce who's playing. I mean, to me, the fan in me gets excited. Oh, CC, you're playing Culver again. You're playing St. Ignatius again. I'll get your thoughts on that in a second. In our mutual friend Dave Mitchell. Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to take on Grandville, and then we'll be the other team to take on Culver. Yeah. Those are cool things. And, that's one thing, John, in recent years, the showcase, as it says, it is the premier hockey event of the season. I mean, outside of the tournament, obviously. I mean, there's nothing quite like this. But I think, this is just one man's opinion, I think what you've seen in the showcase, it's grown from the inside to the out. Yeah. Because now you're seeing more teams say, all right, you know what, we're going to go play Catholic Central. Yeah. We're going to go to the west side to play Forest Hill Central, or we're going to go play Chelsea, or we're going to make that trek up north to play for the Miners Cup, or whatever the case may be. And that, to me, has really helped grow this game in the last few years. The kind of anybody, anywhere approach, Cal, you're seeing it more and more from schools all over the state now.
Yeah, and that's the way I think that's great for hockey. I mean, great for high school hockey. To follow up on what you were saying, as a fan, I get excited, not only from the coach. I mean, I go into this weekend, and there's a lot of teams that we may not see or we won't see just because of the divisions. But you mentioned Hancock and team like, I want to go in and see what they're like. I'm excited to see what type of team they have, even though they're Division III, they're not on our schedule. It's just still fun to see what other teams have, and it brings out the fan in you as well, and even the players. You like for them to have a little bit of time around that rink and pop in and see other games, because we're all there kind of supporting each other and to show what type of product it is.
And one of the matchups I see that's intriguing on Friday is Calumet and Flint Powers. Sean and I have talked in the last few podcasts. Don't look at Calumet's record. Look who they have played. And this could be a potential matchup where we could see them at USA Hockey Arena.
Oh, Calumet could beat anybody. There's no doubt about it. And I'll just reiterate what you just said. Don't take our word for it. Go look at their schedule. Go look at who they're playing. So I'm with you. That's one that I got a circle around that one. Cranbrook and Houghton. It just, in my mind, I remember so many Cranbrook-Houghton games of the past in Division III. I'm intrigued at that, and we'll say the same thing. Cal, about Cranbrook can beat anybody. Yeah. Don't look at their record. They can go beat anybody. I mean, that's what Andy and Patrick have done for so long. Okay, where do we have to play? Who do you want us to play? So to me, that's one of the fun things, circling those games and going, yeah, you know what? I want to see this game. There are so many games like that. Saginaw Heritage and Ike, two teams that are in D1 that, okay, what are these teams about? I've heard of this player, Haste at Ike is having such a big year. Well, you know what? You don't have to look at numbers. You can go watch them play. And it's a beautiful thing because as Coach Kaleniecki said, you have 3 games going on at the same time. You don't like this game, go over to that game. So it really is just a great thing that the MIHL, that Andy and Patrick Ronayne, put so much work into it to see it grow to where it has today.
And the city of Trenton for hosting the
Absolutely. No doubt about that.
They're playing Heartland.
At Trenton, they must have drawn the short stick or something because they've got Heartland and Plymouth.
Yeah.
You want to talk about teams that are going to decide what happens in D2. All one has to do is look at those games and go see what Livonia Stevenson's doing in their 2 games. You're talking about the best of Division II all being in the same place, and certainly don't want to discount Brother Rice. So it is. It's just you pick a division and you're going to see a game. It's interesting. We didn't set it up this way, but we all talked about games at Division 1, 2, or 3, and that's the beauty of a tournament like this. It is the premier high school hockey event of the year.
So that's it for the State Champs Power Play podcast here on the State Champs Podcast Network. You can see this on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can listen to it on SoundCloud. Now we can listen to it on iTunes now, Sean.
Ooh.
And Coach Kaleniecki, thank you for showing up today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.